Senator Mark Kelly just delivered a masterclass in how to dismantle a trillion-dollar fantasy in real time. What you're about to see is Trump's Defense Secretary nominee, Pete Hegseth, crumbling under the weight of basic physics and fiscal reality as Kelly systematically destroys the Golden Dome, missile defense boondoggle, a system that could cost taxpayers up to $1 trillion, while potentially being worthless against the very threats it's designed to stop.
Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I want to talk about the proposed Golden Dome missile defense system. There's a request to spend $25 billion in this year alone. First of all, is this system designed to intercept a full salvo attack?
Senator, it's a multi-layer system that would include different types of salvos. Obviously,
so it's not just Rogue Nation. Okay.
Well, it's meant to. Yes, it's not meant to be just one nation. It could be utilized in
against Russia
scenarios.
or China, full salvo. So, what kind of reliability are you aiming to build into the system? Are we looking for something like 4 nines on intercept success? 99.99% reliability.
Obviously, you seek the highest possible. You begin with what you have and integrating those C2 networks and sensors, building up capabilities that are existing with an eye toward future capabilities that can come online as quickly as possible, not just ground-based, but space-based.
So against future capability too. So do you believe that we can build a system that can intercept all incoming threats? You think we could build that system? This is a very hard physics problem.
You would know as well as anybody, sir, how difficult this problem is, and that's why we put our best people on it. We think the American people deserve it.
So let me tell you what I think we're facing here. You're talking about hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, varying trajectories, MIRVs, so multiple reentry vehicles, thousands of decoys, hypersonic glide vehicles, all at once. And considering what the future threat might be, it might even be more complicated than that. And you're proposing spending not just $25 billion, but upwards of, I think CBO estimated this at least $500 billion, other estimates, $1 trillion. I am all for having a system that would work. I am not sure that the physics can get there on this. It's incredibly complicated. So I want to get to another issue that you're facing here. How much of the staff of the Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation did you cut?
After collaboration, sir, with the service departments, the Joint Staff, and others, we identified that as a place where there were redundancies and multiple additional layers that were unnecessary.
I'll tell you what you cut. You cut 74%.
Most of it. That's what I was going to say.
Most of it. And was your decision to cut more than half of the Pentagon's Testing and Evaluation Office staff driven in part by concerns about the office's plan to oversee testing of Golden Dome?
The concerns were not specific to Golden Dome, sir. It was years and years of delays unnecessarily based on redundancies in the decision-making process that the services, COCOMs, and the Joint Staff, together with OSD, identified as a logjam that was not helping the process.
To get the reliability we would need, you need something that's at 4 nines, 99.99% reliability, with all these challenges. And you cut the staff of the people who are going to make sure this thing works before we make it operational, before we give it to the warfighters. You got to go back and take a look at this. But I also strongly encourage you to put together before we spend $25 billion or $175 billion or $563 billion or $1 trillion, put together a group of people to figure out if the physics will work. You could go down a road here and spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of the taxpayer money, get to the end, and we have a system that is not functional. That very well could happen. And you're doing this just because the president, and I understand your role as the Secretary of Defense. You got to execute what the president says. But this idea, might not be fully baked. And you can get in front of it now and figure out and and find out if you put the right physicists on this. And I'm not saying go to the big defense contractors. Going to scientists, and I know there's a questionable relationship with this administration and scientists, but go to some scientists, figure out what we would have to do to build a system, and then make smart decisions before we spend hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars.
Senator, we're doing that, leveraging existing technologies and not premising the project on aspirational technologies, what we can actually do, and would welcome.
Well, $25 billion
Thank you.
in the first year is a lot of money. That's more than just figuring out if we have the ability to build a system that can handle a full salvo threat, hypersonic glide vehicles, MERS, thousands of decoys. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator Kelly. Senator Sheehy.
What Senator Kelly did in that hearing room wasn't just questioning a nominee. It was a surgical dismantling of one of the most expensive delusions ever proposed by the Pentagon. He transformed what could have been routine confirmation theater into a devastating lesson on fiscal responsibility and scientific reality. Kelly, himself a former astronaut and naval aviator, brought the kind of technical precision that Pentagon brass fears most. Someone who actually understands both the physics and the politics of impossible promises. The Golden Dome system represents everything wrong with defense. Procurement run by political ideology instead of engineering reality. We're talking about a missile defense system designed to stop hundreds of ICBMs launched simultaneously, each carrying multiple re-entry vehicles, thousands of decoys, and hypersonic glide vehicles, all while maintaining 99.99% reliability. That's not ambitious. That's fantasy physics wrapped in a $1 trillion budget request. Kelly's line of attack was methodical and brutal. First, he established the scope of the threat the system claims to address. Not just rogue nations, but full salvos from Russia and China. Then, he forced Hegseth to acknowledge the reliability standards required. 99.99% intercept success against the most sophisticated attacks imaginable. Finally, he revealed the devastating contradiction at the heart of this entire enterprise. Hegseth's Pentagon had gutted the very office responsible for testing whether any of this would actually work. The Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation isn't some bureaucratic afterthought. It's the last line of defense between ambitious promises and operational disasters. When Kelly revealed that Hegseth had cut most of its staff, he doubtless exposed the administration's strategy. Eliminate oversight to accelerate spending on systems that might never function. You don't slash your testing capacity unless you're afraid of what those tests might reveal. But the deeper problem Kelly identified goes beyond budget numbers. It's about the corrupted relationship between scientific reality and political promises. When he urged Hegseth to consult actual physicists rather than defense contractors, he was highlighting a pattern where engineering challenges get subordinated to campaign commitments. The result is predictable. Hundreds of billions spent on systems that may never work against the threats they're designed to counter. Kelly's background gives him unique authority on these questions. As someone who's actually operated in the physics-defying environment of space, he understands the difference between theoretical possibility and engineering reality. When he talks about hypersonic glide vehicles and multiple re-entry vehicles, he's not reading from briefing papers. He's describing challenges he's lived with professionally. The $1 trillion price tag isn't hyperbole. It's the Congressional Budget Office's conservative estimate. Other analyses suggest costs could climb even higher as the technical challenges multiply. We're potentially looking at the largest single defense expenditure in American history for a system that may not work against the threats it's designed to address. This isn't just about missile defense. It's about whether democratic oversight can function when political appointees systematically dismantle the institutions designed to provide independent analysis. When you cut testing staff before deploying untested systems, you're not streamlining bureaucracy, you're eliminating accountability. The pattern Kelly exposed suggests an administration more concerned with appearing decisive than being effective. The stakes extend beyond budget impact. If we spend $1 trillion on a non-functional defense system, we're not just wasting money, we're creating a false sense of security that could prove catastrophic in an actual conflict. Worse, we're diverting resources from proven defense capabilities that could actually protect American interests. Kelly's challenge to Hegseth was ultimately about institutional integrity. Can the Pentagon maintain scientific credibility when political loyalty becomes the primary qualification for leadership? Can democratic oversight function when testing offices get gutted to avoid inconvenient findings? These questions matter because they determine whether our defense spending actually enhances security or just enhances political narratives. What we witnessed wasn't partisan theater, but institutional accountability in action. Kelly used his expertise to force transparency on spending that could reshape American defense policy for decades. The question now is whether Congress will demand the independent scientific assessment Kelly recommended or allow political momentum to drive trillion-dollar commitments, regardless of their technical feasibility.